auto, handle my problems, I ain't scared.
Yo, welcome back, Pacer Nation, Pacer Station fans everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Now, today we got a super interesting video for y'all, super fun video. As most of y'all know, Coach McMillan has been fired. Coach Nate McMillan has been fired, and he is no longer part of the Indiana Pacers organization. We're going to talk about some candidates we think can fill his spot, some coaches that we think would fit the team, etc. I'm going to bring up a few names to Coach Jay. How you doing, Coach Jay?
I'm excited to get this one started. We've got a lot to cover.
100% we do. So the first name that I've been hearing in regards to this head coaching search already, he just got fired today at the time of this video is being recorded. He just got fired this morning, and I'm already hearing Mike D'Antoni a whole lot. How do you feel about Mike D'Antoni?
I actually don't agree with that hire. First of all, I don't think the Pacers will hire him because traditionally he's not the kind of guy the Pacers would hire because, you know, the Pacers want guys who value defense. They don't have to be super great. They don't have to be defensive-minded coaches like
Right.
McMillan. But, you know, Mike D'Antoni has been running the same defensive system with every team that he's coached in his entire NBA career. That trend does not bode well for him getting hired to the Pacers because you know that Dan Burke's been running the Pacers defensive system for, you know, the last 20 years and
Right.
has had success doing that. The
100%.
only way I would hire Mike D'Antoni is if you put a clause in his contract that says you must give Dan Burke control of the defense, and it has to be in writing because if it's an oral agreement, then D'Antoni will do it at first, but then get tired of Dan and then shut him out. I think D'Antoni's probably the best offensive coach in basketball, but honestly, I don't think his style fits with our personnel. I don't, you know, as we said in the playoff recap video, I think, I just think he is, if his solution to our win-loss situation is to have Domas step out and shoot threes in transition, then there's no way in hell I would hire him.
Right.
You know, I just think that what we need is somebody who can take, you know, the Pacers' inside-outside philosophy and explode it.
Right.
And bring it to the modern era. No more isolations, no more post-ups, no more clear-outs. You know, somebody who can take our philosophy to another level.
100%. I do agree with that. However, I do think D'Antoni's a coach that if he were to be hired, I wouldn't be mad whatsoever. It's a hire that I would gladly accept. I'll gladly accept it, even if he doesn't fit the personnel and such. He is better than a lot of candidates out there simply because, like you said, his offense is unbelievable. But next candidate, this is who I personally feel like we should be looking at the most. This is just my view. My favorite candidate, Mark Jackson. How do you feel about Mark Jackson, a former Pacer, helped build that Warriors dynasty? Even though Kerr was the coach, obviously for it, he kind of, you know, was the guy that helped develop Curry and them to become what they were. How do you feel about the idea of Mark Jackson possibly coming and coaching a team he used to be the point guard for in the late '90s?
Well, he is certainly in my top three in terms of candidates, but not because he's a former Pacer, but it's because of what he brings to the table.
Right.
I think the Pacers still want somebody who's going to develop our players and get the most out of the talent that Pritchard brings in. Mark Jackson's career, his staple is player development, but to be honest with you, the thing I like about him the most, and I remember him having this as a player, and I distinctly recall him achieving this with the Warriors, is he would bring an edge and a toughness that we desperately need right now. I could tell at certain points in our series in the series with the Miami Heat, we were getting pushed around. We were giving ground at times when we shouldn't, and as a result, we were getting fouls called on us.
Right.
One of the qualities I would want in the next head coach of the Indiana Pacers is somebody who's going to come in and say, okay, no more first round exits. Our goal with this team is to win a championship.
All right.
And I think Mark would do that. Mark is a very passionate and tough guy.
100%.
And there are a lot of media people and former players who think he's been blackballed since his days with the Warriors. I completely disagree with that. I think Mark's doing what I would do in that circumstance. He was fired from what he thought was a good situation with the Warriors. He's doing what Joe Dumars is doing since he was let go at the Pistons. He's waiting for a job that is the right fit for him.
Right.
And Mark Jackson, I actually think he would certainly bring higher expectations and standards than McMillan brought. And he is another guy like like a Rick Carlisle, who is an offensive and a defensive genius.
Right.
He pretty much set the table for Steve Kerr's success, because literally when Steve Kerr got to the Warriors, he didn't have to change anything defensively. He just opened up the offense.
100%.
And I think under the circumstances, I think Mark Jackson would do exactly the same thing here.
Right. Obviously, I've seen a lot of comparisons saying Nate McMillan to our next coach needs to be like Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. Difference is,
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I do too. I think it needs to be that level of a step, but I don't think McMillan was doing with this Pacers team what Mark Jackson was doing with Golden State originally. I think Mark Jackson was helping them become something huge and way bigger. I don't think McMillan's bringing out the potential in this team like Jackson did with Golden State, in my opinion. But
I agree with that.
But I do think Mark Jackson is my favorite candidate by far, and I would love to see him coach the Pacers. I'd love to see him coach the Pacers. He's my favorite candidate. Now kind of a dark horse candidate I've been hearing about, actually, a decently good amount on Twitter and the interwebs. Becky Hammond from San Antonio. How do you feel about that? I know it's a little touchy.
I think she's definitely qualified.
Right.
I actually think she would do a really good job here. The question is, it's always a question of fit.
Yeah.
I could definitely see the Pacers making a move like that. The Pacers have like the first female assistant GM or something like that.
Yeah, if any organization
can
do it could be Indiana for
sure. So
sure.
I could see the Pacers being idealistic and trying this. I just think there are other candidates out there who are better. It's not that she's not qualified. It's not that she's not a good candidate. It's just that, when you've got guys like Mark Jackson and Mike D'Antoni with their pedigrees out there, I just think that you can find somebody better than that. I distinctly remember when the Pacers hired Nate McMillan, I thought that was a lazy hire. I would prefer the Pacers take as much time as they need and go through as many candidates as they see fit. I think they need to do more research than Bird did when he made his last hire.
100%, they do. I'm kind of on the fence with the Becky Hammond idea. I know she is a great coach. You don't get that far in the Spurs coaching ranks without being a good coach. And I know her values and everything are where they need to be. I do think she would be a pretty good fit here. I just wonder really how that would work out. It's such a because it's something you've never seen. It's an anomaly. No one's ever seen a woman be a head coach in the NBA.
There's just a lot of uncertainty with it. But that's it. That's the only thing I'll say is that there's just uncertainty with it. It's
right.
just like when the Pacers hired Larry Bird. They hired a guy who was a great player but had never coached before, and it was a big, huge roll of the dice, and it worked out.
Right.
There's nothing out there that says that this would work any differently.
100%.
I'm just saying it's very uncertain, and I would look for the Pacers to try something that's a little bit more tested.
For sure. The last candidate I'm gonna bring up, you can bring up whoever you want to mention afterwards, but the last candidate I want to bring up that I personally I wouldn't mind seeing him coach us, but I want to hear what you think about it. David Fizdale. How do you feel about the idea of David Fizdale coaching the Pacers?
He is the wrong kind of personality to mesh with our team. Our players are they're choir boys. They're not the kind of guys who are going to get in your face. They're not, if he came here, he's not going to be dealing with guys like Norris Cole, Mario Chalmers, and Udonis Haslem. There are no guys on this team that are, that in your face kind of. There are no junkyard dogs on this team. Which is an issue in itself. But he's used to coaching guys like Dwayne Wade who get in your face all the time.
Right.
And I think he would want guys like Victor, who's much more of a positive leader, and guys like Brogdon, who are vocal but not in your face.
And even Miles Turner.
I think he would eat Miles Turner alive. I think he would last the season. I think the players would run him out of town.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the one thing that while it can be looked at in that way, that's one of the reasons I think I wouldn't mind him being the coach in a way, because if he could, it would really depend on how he feels about the job and how he feels about his personnel, because of course the team, like you said, they don't match his personality very well. But if he could get more toughness out of the team, if he could turn you either have junkyard dog in you or you don't. I'm not saying he can teach that, but as a collective, if he can get the team to play together and play harder together, I wouldn't mind Fizdale too much. I mean, he's not the best candidate. Like I said, I want Mark Jackson. That's the guy I want. But Fizdale's just a name I feel like we could be hearing for the job. And I have heard people say on Twitter that they do think he'll be mentioned somewhere in there. So any coaching candidates you want to bring up specifically?
Yeah, there is one in particular that I like. Honestly, this guy and Mark Jackson are my top two choices and have been my top two choices for the last year or so. Obviously, Mark, because of his connection with the Pacers, he's very much like a Doc Rivers who's just a born leader. He's so charismatic. Everybody listens to him.
The leader of men.
I'm with you. I like Mark Jackson. He's one of my first choices. But the other guy that I like is Brian Shaw. He was the associate head coach for Vogel when they went to their Eastern Conference Finals appearance in 2013 and pushed Miami to 7 games. That coaching staff that Vogel had at that time was probably the best coaching staff we've ever had. You had Brian Shaw on the bench, who had 5 NBA titles. You still had Dan Burke running the defense, and you also had Jim Boylan, who won a championship with the Spurs the next year. I think what the Pacers need is they need somebody who is going to take our offense to another level. And I think Brian Shaw he's got very similar credentials to what Steve Kerr had with the Warriors. He's got 5 NBA titles, 3 as a player with the Lakers and 2 as an assistant coach for Phil Jackson. He knows the Pacers organization very well. He knows what it takes to win a championship, and he has an absolute dynamite pedigree when it comes to developing championship guards. I think if you ask Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, which coach if Brian Shaw had a hand in his development, I think he would definitely say something. I think he would definitely say that. And I think if you ask Derek Fisher, who taught him how to be a leader, I would think Brian Shaw would be on that list.
100%.
I think Shaw's calm and cool demeanor is good. It would be a good fit with our young players. I also think that Brian Shaw would wisely bring in a dynamite coaching staff.
For sure.
I could see him. There are a lot of other candidates out there right now who I would not hire as a head coach, but I would definitely hire on our staff. Alvin Gentry's out of work right now. Kenny Atkinson was fired from the Nets.
Yes, sir.
If Brian Shaw or Mark Jackson took the job, I could easily see them bringing in a couple of former head coaches on the staff.
100%.
Especially Brian Shaw. I could see him bringing in, maybe Ty Lue or I could see him bringing in some just kick-ass assistants to pair with him and Dan Burke.
Right. 100%.
So,
I could see Brian Shaw too. I didn't even think about him though. For some reason, whenever I saw the job was opening, the guy that has been on my mind, like I've been saying repeatedly, Mark Jackson. That's my dream coach for the job. And I really, really hope they at least give him a look, because although it might not be completely being blackballed, I do know some teams could have given Mark Jackson more of a look than they did, and it wasn't just because he wasn't interested. Of course, he is looking for the right job. I know, like a lot of guys are being told they need to go try to be the coach in Chicago, and no one should step towards that job. That shouldn't be what anyone wants to be
same
a
with the
part of,
Knicks.
unless you're a young, yeah, right, exactly. And yes, unless you're a young guy, a young coach who's trying to build with a team. I don't think any coach wants to coach teams like that right now. But the Pacers is a great job and a great opportunity, especially considering he used to be a player here, and he has a familiarity with the area. It just would make a lot of sense. He would be a great fit. I feel like with guys like Brogdon, and Vic. I just feel like he'd be a great coach for us. That's who I hope we get. So glad Nate McMillan got fired after the series we just saw. So glad.
Absolutely.
100%. Well, thanks for having you on again, Coach Jay. It was a great video. Can't wait to see who we hire at all. Cannot wait. If it is Mark Jackson, I'm going to be so excited about next season. But even if it's not him, if it's D'Antoni or if it's Fizdale, like we said, Shaw, uh, I'll be excited no matter who we get, as long as it's not like a. I saw someone say Earl Watson. If it there's some guys we just don't need to give. I don't feel like we
Yeah.
need to give looks to. Like, you know what I'm
There are a
saying?
lot of
Earl
guys
Watson
out.
does not be.
There are a lot of guys out there who would make great assistant coaches or who would be great adds to our coaching staff, but not head coaches. So
Right. 100%. They don't have that alpha in them, and I think that's something that guys like Mark Jackson and Brian Shaw do have. I don't think Nate McMillan has it a lot, and I think that's the reason he got fired too. I know he's been a head coach for a long time. He was the coach up in Portland, but I think
and
McMillan
Seattle.
fits an assistant coach. Yeah, and Seattle. But I think McMillan fits an assistant coach mode more than he fits a head coaching mode. I just don't see him being an
Absolutely.
alpha personality for a head coach of a good basketball team that wants to win a championship. But guys like Mark Jackson and Brian Shaw, I definitely see that in. Can't wait to see who we hire. Pacer Nation, make sure you guys follow us at Pacer Station on all social media platforms. Great new content coming soon. Comment who you guys want to see be the head coach, and let me know why in the comments. Would love to get a little discussion going in the comments about who we think would be the best fit here in Indiana. Like I said, I think it's Mark Jackson. Coach Jay says Mark Jackson or Brian Shaw. All great candidates. Can't wait to have you on again, Coach Jay. It was great having you on. And Pacer Nation, we're up. Deuces.